Hello and welcome along to WD18, the Watford fan channel here on deadline day 2025. It's February the 3rd. It's 9 o'clock. There's a couple of hours left of the window. Myself and Charlie are going to have a little bit of a chat about what has been, I think, incredibly underwhelming transfer window for Watford. As always, this video is brought to you in partnership with Hertfordshire Minds. Charlie, how are we on this Monday night? We're skipping Monday night football to have a bit of a chat. I think this is actually more entertaining probably than the game I'm seeing at the minute between West Ham and Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. But how's your day been? Busy one?
Yeah, busy doing other bits with other transfers in the Premier League and stuff. And trying to keep across Andrew French's live blog, which has been pretty entertaining. It's like a game of Watford's Guess Who about this mystery signing who we think we know who that might be now. Hopefully that news breaks as we're live, but yeah, I'm sure we're going to get into it, but a bit underwhelming if I'm honest.
Yeah, big show on the way. We're going to take a look at Watford's winter transfer window. We'll probably have a chat about the summer one and maybe not laying the correct foundations for this season and where this leaves Watford with the squad building, but also Tom Cleverley and us as a fan base with the ownership. Thanks so much to everyone who's tuning in live. I know it's a late one for us. Normally we're an 8 o'clock kickoff, but it's 9 o'clock this evening. If you want to grab yourself a cup of tea, maybe a glass of warm milk to get you through this one, and probably a bit more going on there has been in this transfer window, but hopefully there's a nice ending to it where we can get in a late transfer. As Tom Cleverley had said in the build up to this, we're all working hard to make one of those players an oven-ready championship player. He also went on to say in the build-up to Andrew French that I can assure you there will definitely be 2 more coming in. Now, we had one earlier with Wiley, who was confirmed on loan from Chelsea. We had a rumour that we didn't maybe expect with Ryan Porteous making a move to Preston North End, and a championship rival when you look at the table. And also there's one more player to come in, and we'll touch upon that as we go on in the podcast. Thanks so much to everyone who's joined us. But first, before we talk about anything, we're going to get Sam Yuko's take. He's not with us here today or tonight, but this is what he has to say about Watford's transfer business. This is recording this morning, and this is what Sam had to say.
Hope you're all good. Apologies, I can't make it onto the stream this evening. Love a deadline day stream. But unfortunately, I just can't make it. So I thought I'd send in something for you to play a bit later on in the video. My thoughts on the transfer window. To be honest with you, I think it's been an absolute disaster. The only way that things could have gone worse is potentially if Georgie Chapatatse or Rocco Vata had left the football club. I was going to add Quadro Bar in that, but Quadro Bar is going to be out for the majority of whatever's left of the season at this point as well. So feels like we've pretty much lost him as well in this transfer window, along with Ryan Porteous, who's left today, of course. God, to be honest with you, it's all just been a bit of a blur. It's just been so disappointing. This window generally, it's just on top of what we already knew we needed. There's been so many injuries in the squad that ultimately have meant that Watford have needed even more than what we've brought in. Vacuum bio suspension means that it's looking like, unless there's a miracle after the time of recording this, then Mamadou Doumbia is going to be the only fit striker going into the next 3 games against 3 teams who are right up there in Sunderland, Middlesbrough and Leeds. So yeah, it's incredibly frustrating, to be honest with you. And I just feel for Tom Cleverley because ultimately he hasn't been backed here by Gino Pozzo, Scott Duxbury, Jean-Luc Nani. I don't feel he has anyway, to be honest with you. They keep on saying it's a difficult window to work in, and yes, that is understandable, but so many teams around us quite clearly have planned for this window, it looks like, and it looks like that we've just made it up completely as we've gone along. I know money is a bit tight as well, but teams in probably similar or even worse financial positions than us are making moves. And I think as well there's been an element, particularly with what happened with Daniel Jefferson, Courtney Hawes a couple of seasons ago as well, that Watford potentially wanted to sign a couple of Premier League players on loan, but I think potentially we're not trusted by clubs with these Premier League loans. I know we've brought in the left back from Chelsea, Wiley, I think his name is, but we're not going to see him for the foreseeable future either. Probably be lucky to see him in March, come in the middle of March, because he's definitely going to be out for at least February, but he's never played in the Championship before. Cleverly asked for almost oven-made Championship players, and ultimately he hasn't that hasn't been delivered. So yeah, those are my brief thoughts on the window. I think it's been a nightmare. Sooner Potso, Duxbury, Shanley, Kanani clear off, I think the better, because I think this is probably the first that we're going to see of a succession of poor transfer windows. But yeah, enjoy the rest of the video, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll catch up with you all soon. Cheers.
Top man, Sammy boy. There was Sam Yuko's thoughts on this transfer window and deadline day. Charlie, yeah, I think that was quite sobering for me to hear it from Sam, because I think in my head I was thinking this has been really underwhelming. And I think the biggest thing to say is it's left Tom Cleverley out to dry a little bit. When you look at, with the games coming up, the position we were in, it does just feel like, well, it doesn't feel, the writing's on the wall in terms of they have not backed him like they said they would. So are you surprised?
Am I surprised? I am a little bit surprised with the incompetency of the board and how we've operated. Do you know what I mean? We've always been. Do you know what I mean? We know we've been financially struggling, but the fact that we've left it down to the last minute, the fact that we haven't addressed key areas. We're going to talk, but like centre midfielder for me, we need legs in the middle. It is that is like we've said it. We've done so many videos saying what's a priority, and it hasn't even been mentioned. Like we heard a couple of weeks ago about, we're getting a winger in who we think this might be this lad that is going to come in tonight. But key areas not being addressed, key profiles not been signed. What Clevs wants, penny pinching. We know the situation. I will take this poor window, and I will take us being not spending any money if it's one step closer to Potso leaving. But my fear is he's still going to blame Tom for any negative results that we get, and do what we all hope he doesn't do. So it's incredibly frustration. It's all on him. That's the only thing I'm thinking. If it's just another step towards him selling up, him getting the money that he needs to leave, then I'll take it. But yeah, it just says a lot about our position and where we are as a football club. But if he just does anything wild, it's just that's the biggest fear for me.
Well, let's break down the window then, Charlie. There could be one more to come in, and that is Marshall Godo, who plays at Fulham at the moment. He was on loan at Wigan last season, came through at Margate. Just one to keep an eye on, but that depends if Fulham managed to sign a winger from AC Milan. But here it is on screen. So in terms of incoming so far, we've had James Abankwah on loan from Udinese, Eagle Selvik on a permanent deal from Udinese, Caleb Wiley, who's joined from Chelsea on loan today. But you look at the outs, Charlie. Daniel Jefferson recalled from his loan to Bournemouth. Antonio Tikvic goes out on loan. We didn't even know if we signed him permanently. Festi Ebesele, his loan was terminated from Udinese. Kai was in the under-23, so less involved. But, reportedly a fee up to €1 million was spent on him. I'd imagine that's instalments, or was at least clauses anyway. But that's one to mention. Ken Sema had his contract terminated. And then the one today, Ryan Porteous leaving out on loan to Preston. So, Charlie, when you see those names on paper, you see some of the players we've brought in, but mainly the players that have left the club. A lot of people wouldn't, well, I think some people wouldn't have had too much of an issue if those players are left. But the biggest thing is the players haven't been replaced, Charlie, or at least haven't been upgraded on.
No, not at all. And our squad is incredibly thin without the injuries. And we've got key injuries like we know to Quadro Bar, Dan Batman, Tom Deli-Bashir is just coming back. But yeah, the squad is just not fit for purpose to be in the Championship. And again, it shows, like we did the post-match pint video. Make sure you check that out after Norwich when we talked about that game. And if you look on paper, kind of the difference in squads between us and Norwich and us and other teams, it's funny because I was looking at I went back to see if we are still, obviously we're rock bottom for the money spent, but then I was looking at kind of the other options that other teams have got. And if you look at everyone's other options, especially in the striker department, we literally have Bayo suspended for 3 games and Harold Dumbia, 18. We got an 18-year-old lad who's come from Mali in the summer who's leading our line in the Championship. It's just awful squad building. And then I quickly looked at West Brom, just looked at West Brom's team because I know they've got a few, but So we've got Doumbia as our striking options. West Brom have got Josh Madger, Carlin Grant, Daryl DK. They signed Will Lancashire on loan and Devante Cole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Championship proper strikers. I've just picked West Brom out, but if you see some of the deals that other Championship teams are doing, when you hear about Sunderland looking at Adingra and Edwards that Burnley got in, we're shopping. We're shopping in Poundland basically. We're not even shopping. We're trying to rob from Woolworths. It's just the state that we've gone on from the highs that we have seen in the Premier League to where we are now. It shows how bad the Pozzos have got it wrong, and it's a real shame, really.
No, I agree. Apologies if this is a bit more of a negative pod today, but this is very much just sort of our raw feelings on the situation at the moment. When I look at the names on paper, Charlie, the one, look, Selvik, we'll have to wait and see. We haven't seen anything of him. I'll get onto my thoughts on Wiley in just a second. And it's not even about the guy. It's more the profile of the signing we're talking about here. But James Abankwah, from the early stages and the early signs, looks like a good bit of business if we're being balanced on this in terms of the fact that he can play as a right back, right centre back. I even think he can play as a midfielder, the way he drives past players, even maybe just as a destroyer in there. That's one to look out for. But I think Abankwah, on the whole, has been a good bit of business. Out of the players that have left, Charlie, are there any that you look at there? And shout out to the Watford FC Buzz podcast as well. The guys, thanks so much for doing this graphic. We've nabbed it. But make sure you do follow their podcast and give it a listen. I'm sure they'll be doing a debrief after deadline day. Which players out of the ones that have left would you have kept?
Ken Sema.
Really? Okay.
Championship ready players that you can rely on. Can play multiple positions.
Was his contract situation not running out though?
We terminated it. So would it have been better to have him as a body in the squad? We haven't made any money off him, have we? We don't know the ins and outs of the deal, but I don't think they had a fee. I think it was we terminated his contract. So he may be on big wages. He may have got a contract when he was kind of in the Premier League, maybe. So maybe getting him off the wage bill. Festi Ebisele was an interesting one because he started well at Watford, but for some reason I don't think Tom was having him. I think he said something about his application and training. He looked bright, but could have he been given more of an opportunity? Jefferson didn't work out. He's now playing in the Premier League for Bournemouth. The fact that we are not getting Rajovic in, which Andrew French has reported in his blog today. Look, obviously the Jefferson was so far gone. I might have kept him to persist with that because look at our situation now. And the Ryan Porteous one, really interesting. I'll ask for your opinion, but I don't think it's worked out for Porto here. Like I've said, I think the reality of Porto versus what you think of him are two completely different things. It hasn't worked out. That's the one area we have got depth in. If he's down the pecking order, I don't hate that one, to be honest. But Jacob, would you have kept? Well, same question to you. Any of those you would have kept, and what are your thoughts on the Porto deal?
Yeah, I mean, just look. The big missed opportunity for me is Festi Ebisele, and I think he's the one player I look at on that paper, and I think he's Championship top 10 player without a doubt. And I'm slightly frustrated that hasn't worked out with Festi at Watford. Look, he would want to be playing football. He's in the Ireland setup. If he's not playing football, he's going to leave. And it's clearly a move he wanted. Porto, I'm not too fussed about that one. I feel like that one's probably been exacerbated because of the fact we haven't brought anyone in. My big issue with this window is the fact that we haven't brought in the right replacements or the right players. And just to add to that, Charlie, if I take back to Gianluca Nani's programme notes against Preston, Porto's new club, who's on loan to the end of the season, no option to buy. January 21st, this was from Gianluca Nani. Whatever happens and however you achieve something, the target is to leave the January window knowing that the squad is stronger than when you entered. This is the most important thing. And I would love to know if someone could ask him now if he believes that squad is stronger than when we left off in the January transfer window at the start. And I really don't believe that.
No, I think you're correct. It's clearly not as strong. I think there's been reports. I think maybe not an effort issue in terms of trying to get the right players, and Tom and him working hard to identify players. But the fact that it's just the culture, and Sam said it in his intro about why would you loan Watford a club when you can't trust that the manager's going to be there? And do you know what I mean? We haven't got a track record of developing players. The amount of players that we've talked about in videos, and I've been sending links in just like dagger after a player who would be perfect for us going to another championship team. No better or no worse than Watford in terms of league position, but our reputation is just such a bad one, and this is why we're struggling to do these deals, in my opinion. Not that I think Nani's competent at all. I think he might have been competent in 2012, but it is what it is. And I don't think these people are kind of bad people or like not working hard. I just think the big picture and the culture has got us into this position. And yeah, it's going to be a tough second half of the season, I'm afraid.
I think it's the priorities for me, Charlie, because I look at the January transfer window, and at the end of the day, the January transfer window, whether you like it or not, you want signings to come in and hit the ground running. That is really what you're judged on. You know, I cast my mind back under Slav 2014-15. Ready-made players coming in, Matt Connolly, Adlen Guediora, probably having one of the biggest impacts I've seen from a Watford signing. Remember Derby away, Middlesbrough at home was a massive part to actually us getting over the line. Now it's a different situation, a different scenario we're finding ourselves in. But the players that have come in, right, and just to get that back on screen, a Banquet, to be fair, can come straight in. So can Selvik. Caleb Wiley is a fascinating one, and I'd love to know the thought process of it. Now, from what I've read, he's suited more to being a wing back than in a back four. It's not really about Wiley as a player, to be honest. But as I said, this window is about us signing players who can make an immediate impact, Charlie. And we've just signed a left back on loan who can't play until March. So this run that we've got coming up, when you look at the run of games, which is probably the hardest run that we have this season, not probably, it is the hardest run we have this season. Sunderland away Saturday, Leeds at home, Middlesbrough away, and then Luton at home. Our new signing isn't going to be fit till March. So he's going to miss all of those games. So actually, you've brought in a player that's going to miss a lot of that. And even when he gets fit, it's going to take time for him to get up and running. Now, let me make this perfectly clear. This is not against Wiley as a football player. I really hope it works. I hope he can get fit as quickly as possible. But it's leaving Tom Cleverley short again. And it's so frustrating for me, Charlie, when, you know, I see the run that we're on at the minute. I see what Clevs is saying. We've lost 7 out of the last 9. We have 1 win in the last 9. It doesn't get any easier with the fixtures. He's crying out for help. He's crying for players to come in and make an immediate impact. How many times have we heard it this season, particularly in the January transfer when he said, we need players to come in who know the league and know what it's all about. And we're bringing in players who, some of them might work, some of them don't. But there's no one that you look at immediately and go, they're guaranteed to hit the ground running. And I know it's easier said than done, but that's where we're really missing that for me. So when I look at the window, I just always think, I think we left Tom Cleverley short in the summer. I think he's been absolutely, he's done a magnificent job to put us in a position that we have. Granted, the last 7 games have been poor. He's asked for a bit of help in the transfer market. We haven't given him that. And then it begs the question, Charlie, for 2 things. Actions speak louder than words. For me, I've had a lot of statements. I've seen a lot of things written in programs, you know, in press conferences or whatever. Until I haven't seen those actions backed up. Now, I understand the financial situation, but their actions to me tell me they either don't trust Cleverley and they want someone else in, or they're not prepared to put any more money into the football club. So at the end of the day, we're either basically saying that Clevs isn't the man for this ownership, or we're basically just being sort of ushered into being sold, and probably both are true, to be honest. So that's where I kind of find myself at the end of this transfer window, Charlie.
Are they delusional enough to think that they can bring in another manager who can, I don't know what that can achieve better than Tom Cleverley with the squad that is available? Are they delusional enough to think that?
I think so. I think so, Charlie, because the track record says otherwise. Look, I'll always give people the benefit of the doubt, right? If you do it once or twice, you go, okay, we'll let you off. But this is a recurring theme. The owner wants short-term progression. That's ultimately all he wants. And if he can get us to a point where the value of the club goes up, or in a position where we can be sold, I don't think he's been. Honestly, Charlie, I think Cleverley is the best and worst thing to happen to Gino, because he got him out of a hole last season and he got him out of a hole at the start of this season. But as soon as it's slightly gone wrong, the pressure on him has intensified. And now we're having the conversation about him where maybe it might have just gone under the surface. And I'd hold my hands up. I was guilty of that. I'd maybe have looked at the manager. What could he have done? Could he have done something differently? But because Clevs is a man, and the fact that there's a really bright prospect and a future in coaching for him, and we're all really behind him, I think the intensity on the board and their actions have just gone up another level. I know people have been saying it for a while, but I think collectively, you heard the chants at the weekend. This just feels like everyone's woken up to say, look, what's going on upstairs? But hey, getting annoyed once again thinking about it. Charlie, bring it home before we talk on each signing individually, because there is a lot to break down in this video, and we're 20 minutes in and having discussed each individual signing.
I've got to say, you are very skilled at being passionate and articulate, something that I struggle with. But I echo everything you say, and I haven't looked in the live chat, but I imagine people feel the same way. So again, one thing that I think that's a positive is that people's minds and focus are kind of sharpened where the issue is and how we get along. And I think the only way that Gino can have an easy life is by just letting Clevs get on with it. And look, it's going to be a tough run. We're not expecting many results, but when we get through that, when we get players back, hopefully start picking up results when we've got a bit more easier games that we should be winning. So yeah, let's try and move on to the positives where we can. I've heard some good things about Godot, who I want to talk about in a bit, but yeah, should we go through what's been happening today?
Let's do it. Let's touch on Wiley. I said, again, it's nothing to do with him personally, because it's not to him. He's a 20-year-old left back. He's injured at the moment. Hopefully he can get back quickly and get into the team. But he's not someone who can make an instant impact because he's on the what's the word? In the medical chair. That's the thing. Anyway, Tom Cleverley said on the signing, he signed on loan until the end of the season. Clev's a really athletic left back with great technical quality, as you'd expect from a Chelsea player. He's coming here having been playing at a high level with Strasbourg in the French top flight. And he's exactly the type of player that's going to give us great competition in that area of the pitch. Andrew French went on to say, and check out Andrew's blog in the last couple of hours of the window, or if you're listening to this back, it pretty much sums up deadline day in one place following Watford, so you can check it out there. Andrew said he's not played Wiley since November 24th with a dislocated shoulder. I'm told they think he'll need 4 weeks to be fit, Charlie.
Yeah, not good in terms of the situation. I don't think it's the profile that we need. We spoke about Charlie Taylor, who you highlighted as a player we should sign. He was linked. I think on Sunday, Sky Sports News reported that Newcastle rejected our loan bid for Matt Targett. Apparently that was going to happen. And then Newcastle ended up selling Lloyd Kelly to Juventus. So Newcastle didn't let Matt Targett go. So Matt Targett would have had been a bit more experience at the level. But yeah, Caleb Wiley, Chelsea bought him as one of their kind of shopping spree young players. I think last season he cost them about £10 million from Atlanta. Highly rated over there. He's got a wicked left foot. This is kind of what I've seen from the clips from when he was playing in America. Highly rated. He's obviously played for America as well. Didn't have a great loan spell at Strasbourg, which is Chelsea's equivalent to our Udinese, their sister club. Obviously, he's picked up that injury, but yeah, if he was in our squad alongside an experienced left back, I'd be fine. Good competition for place, but him and Laruzzi fighting for that left back / left wing back spot. I've heard he isn't the best in the back four, which is not ideal because we know that that's what Tom wants to play. And like we said in the Norwich game, we think Abankwah and Pollock could be a solid 2 that is good enough to play with a back 4. So yeah, look, let's give him a chance. Let's see how he gets on. We can't write a player off before he's even taken to the field. It's just the circumstances that we're not going to see him until March. And what's he going to have? 10 games of the season? I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know if anyone's reporting that part of the deal is like an obligation or we can keep him next season. So there's a bit of longevity to it. But he looks like a promising player, but certainly not a player that you could rely on, and you should rely on. Really, you shouldn't be bringing in these young players and expect them to hit the ground running. Same as Larousse, he's a similar kind of profile for him for me.
Another loan player as well. For Watford, we did sign another Chelsea player today, but that it looks like he's for the under-23s. And by the way, just on that one, he used to play at Watford, got pinched by Chelsea, and now he's back at Watford. I'm sure we probably had to pay more than he went for. But anyway, that just shows that the system at the moment in terms of young players that coming through the academy. Yeah, look, we'll have to see on Wiley. I think he's been used as, like with myself, as a bigger, as almost a guinea pig for sort of the wider recruitment issue at Watford. And again, it's nothing to do with him. It's more just the fact that he can't play immediately is really frustrating because you've got a guy there who clearly has ability. So the fact that he's not going to be available for how much of his loan spell, bearing in mind it's to the end of the season, is crazy. But that's one to look out for.
It's like Kevin Caben. Obviously, we signed him. He's barely kicked a ball for us. We know he's back in the squad, and look, he could come in and be a really, really good player, and we'll feel a bit easy about Porto going but kind of taking shortcuts, getting cheaper deals for players who aren't fit. It's just the Pozzo way, and it's probably all they can afford, or all he's willing to put in money wise. Okay,
we move on. So that we started with Wiley joining Watford on loan from Chelsea. Then we had some rumours coming out last night. This is recorded on Monday, so Sunday night, about Ryan Porteous potentially being linked with a move away. Sheffield United were linked, and Preston links started to gather pace to the point where he was signed, and he said in his interview, Charlie, about how it really did gather pace quite quickly. The quotes from Cleverley I thought were interesting about Porto, because it seems like he couldn't guarantee him the play time that he wanted. Just to read a couple of the quotes here, Cleverley said, "I spoke to Ryan last week and explained he might not play anything like as much as he expects. I'd imagine with a banquet coming in. I've got great respect for him as a player and a character, but listening to what he wanted, I didn't think I'd be giving him the game time to match his ambitions." Now, Paul Heckingbottom's at Preston at the minute, right? And they work together at Hibernian. So this is a move that makes sense for Preston, makes sense for Porto. But I was less concerned, really, Charlie, about Porteous leaving. I'd imagine that imagine Preston are paying the majority of his wages. I don't think Watford would have signed up to that deal. Some would argue you're strengthening a rival, but look, if Porto's head's not there and he doesn't want to be there, and he wants to be playing football, I'd rather him not stink the place out of Watford. I'd rather him get away and let some other players come in. I actually think out of all the positions, centre-back's probably the one we're okay in at the minute, as long as Ogbonna comes back in. I guess, Caben's not really in the picture at the minute as well. But the one quote really that was telling about this whole move, Charlie, was Ryan Porteous, and this is what he had to say. If I get it up on screen.
Jacob, before you do that, just something that Lou Ons has tweeted, bit of breaking news, not my information, but the journalist who spoke to Andrew regarding Udinese has messaged to say Brenner, who is that Udinese striker, the Brazilian, is a serious possibility in the last hour, and are trying to get everything in order for it to go ahead. So Luke's saying it's not his information, just one to keep an eye out. That could happen. We spoke about him for a while. He hasn't played a lot for Udinese, but that's one to keep an eye on. Brenner coming in from Udinese. Sorry, what was the quote from Porter?
No, I was going to say with Brenner, that's a fascinating one, because surely that could have been done earlier in the window. That almost suggests that Brenner didn't want the move, and now he's realised, I'm not going to be playing at Udinese. Can I play somewhere? Let's get him to Watford. That really that comes across to me anyway. But we'll see how that one progresses. Ryan Porteous signed for Preston in his first interview with the football club. I think at the age I am now, I need a consistent run of games and a healthy environment. I feel that Preston can provide that right now.
There's two things I think. There's one thing I think he's right about, and there's one thing I think he's wrong about in this quote. The thing I think he's right about is that Watford is probably not a healthy environment. We don't have to go into the details of that as to why. The thing I think he might be wrong about is him getting a consistent run of games, because Preston have got some pretty good defenders. And I'd be shocked if Porto went straight in and took one of those out, because he's just not reliable enough for a Championship defender that you need that you can. I think he's had like a string of 2 or 3 decent games, but in the Championship, you need solid, you need steady, and I don't think he's good enough at this level, and I don't think he's reliable enough. So that's why I think we're all a bit easy about the Porto move. Interesting that Clev said that he's kind of below someone like Francisco Sierralta, which says quite a lot. But I think we could all see it with our eyes. You can't trust Porteous, can you? So good luck to him. Hopefully it goes well, and maybe we get a bit of money back from him in the summer if he moves on.
Agreed. Cleverley went on to say that a bank was coming. We've got Kabeng coming back from injury. I'll believe it when I see it. And then Sierralta and Ogbonna as well. So, and then obviously Matty Pollock, who's literally the first name on the team sheet at the moment, isn't he? So we've got 5 centre-backs there at the moment. So that kind of is the least of Watford's concerns. And I guess Porteous is, again, he would have been the 6th. Well, not in the pecking order, but the 6th centre-back. Would he have played a lot? Not really. And we don't really play as much of the back three as we did at the start of the season. So, look, I actually think that's a move that suits all parties, to be honest. Brenner's one to look out for. And we're doing this live at 9 p.m. on a Monday. It'll probably be 9 a.m. on a Monday when we finish talking about Watford. But it's 9 p.m. So if anything does come through and you're listening to this the day after, we are just reacting to it live. Brenner's is a fascinating one because, Charlie, we've been linked with Iheanacho. We were linked with Dennis. He's off to Blackburn. Sam says we lost out on our targets like Iheanacho, so Bremer seems like the last resort.
Hey, do you know what? I remember liking Brenner's profile like 2 seasons ago. I remember tweeting about him when he was on fire in America, and he looked like quite an exciting prospect, like young Brazilian player. Looked really lively. He's quite similar, like profile stylistically to Emmanuel Dennis. Again, he hasn't played a lot of football, so you're not going to be able to come in and drop him. He has been part of matchday squads, unlike Dennis, but it's better than nothing. I don't think it's great, not a great scenario, but I think people are right. Obviously, we're interested in Iheanacho, but like we talked about, Iheanacho and players like that probably got the call from Watford and said, hold fire, we're going to get interest from other Championship clubs. And now Iheanacho has gone to Middlesbrough, so Middlesbrough better get up with the business that they were doing. Like, it's absolutely crazy. Like Morgan Whittaker, they've already got Ben Doak, Iheanacho that they've bought in. List all the players. Middlesbrough just seem to be buying absolutely everyone. So, sorry, I'm just calling them out because I'm just frustrated. Because every time I look at my phone, it's like Borough have signed this exciting prospect. I'm like,
You went full Keegan there. I would love it if they didn't go up. We've had a bit of an update just on Godot, Martial, Andrew French saying that, and now appears unlikely to be happening. So that is the update there on Godot, Martial. Brenner looks like the last bit of business that Watford could do. And Tom Cleverley said there will definitely be 2 more coming in. I'm not counting the under-23 Chelsea player at the moment. I'm counting Wiley, but will we get that second one? Because that will, again, not add up to what's been said, to what's actually happened.
I can't believe Godot's not happening either. Shocking.
Yeah. Okay, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. We're about halfway through the stream, a lot to get into. We'll get into the sort of squad graphic we need to touch on. Travis Akemia, who obviously signs from Chelsea, and then we'll grade Watford's transfer window overall. So let us know your grades as well, and we'll get into it. Okay, so Porteous has gone, Wiley's in temporarily anyway for Porto. Charlie, let's touch just briefly on Travis Akemia. So Watford re-signed the 19-year-old Chelsea centre-back Travis Akemia, from Chelsea. He started at Watford, went to Chelsea, came back, re-signed. I thought he was going to be involved in the first team setup. Judging by Watford's post, it was from the Watford Academy, so it looks like he'll be in there under-23 setup. Anything to add on him? I guess time will tell, right, if he's going to be involved in the senior setup.
He's done well at Chelsea, to be fair. I know he's been captain for the, under-18s team, but it's a deal that Pozzos are happy to do because he's probably got big upturn if he goes on to be a good player. So we may never see him ever, or he could be an academy graduate who does get some minutes next season. So that is what we want to see. And we've seen Ryan come into the team. We saw Adipoko playing. Jack Greaves is on loan at the moment. So we do want to encourage these young players. So I don't hate it at all. Jacob's eyes are lit up there like some breaking news. What have you got for us?
Breaking news, not of the good kinds. Now, the comment section saying that Andrew French has said that Martial Godot was the second person Clevs was talking about. Now, can someone get that confirmed? Because if that's the case, then that's awful. That's an awful look, really.
And Fulham apparently getting who they're bringing back. What's his name? The other Brazilian. Well, he used to play for Chelsea. My head's gone.
I don't know. But so Andrew said at the start of the day,
Ian,
if we cast our mind back to literally the start of deadline day, we haven't even touched on the Quadro Bar link. It's with Wolfsburg, which we'll touch on in just a second. Andrew said that 2 signings are expected to be completed today. Looks like 1 senior player is on the way out. So Wiley signed, that's one of the 2, and Porto's gone. So 2 out of the 3 things have happened. I've just gone on the live blog from Andrew, and the player I've been waiting on all day, as many have guessed, is Martial Godot from Fulham. That now appears unlikely to be happening. He would have been the second of 2 that Tom Cleverley spoke about arriving today.
Speechless. What? Yeah, I think just get my reaction from everything that we said at the top of the show. It's the incompetency and the negligence of the ownership. And yeah, I feel for Clevs at the moment. And yeah, I just hope he. Do you know what I mean? Clevs is a class act. He's not gonna. I don't think he's gonna throw his toys out the pram, or he won't say a bad word against. Oh, Jacob's eyes are going.
Oh my, sorry. Reading some of the people in the chat. Are they just? I don't know if they're actually putting in.
You don't troll us. We're at emotional levels at the moment. We don't need fake news to rattle us even more. But
someone said Ryan Andrews is off to Ipswich now.
Alex, behave, Alex.
It's all going on. I thought we'd do it live on this Monday night because there is always something going on. But Andrews, I think that's from an unlikely source. Just on Godot though, I mean, we've gone from pretty much him certainly signing, Charlie, to confident, to 50-50, and now to a likely. On Cleverley, do you think he's been a bit naive there coming out, or do you think he was trying to put the pressure on upstairs?
No, I think Cleverley's smart. Like he might have been naive, or I think he's admitted a few mistakes earlier on in the window, in the first window, about saying what he wanted. And I even remember before the start of the window when he was talking about players that he wanted of the profile, and I think he admitted that he now understands Watford aren't swimming in those waters or shopping in that market. I think Clevs is a smart guy. I think he chooses his words wisely now, and I think he's in a no-lose situation. I think he clearly says these are the players, so it's up to the board, and he knows exactly if anything goes wrong, whose fault it is. So, yeah, Clevs is a smart guy. And like I was saying before my head went, I don't think he's going to throw his toys out the pram. I don't think he's going to say negative words against the ownership. I think he's going to work with the squad he's got and do the best he can. And I think everyone knows whose fault it is about the state of our squad.
I just want to touch on a few of these comments, Charlie, before we touch on the rest of the window. So there was one comment that Sam Yuko's off to Borough. Apparently, that's one to keep an eye on. But
how much we get for him?
I don't know. A Twix. A Twix at Snickers.
Oh no, he's worth more than that. At least a meal deal.
Meal deal. Interesting comment from Michael. Really different perspective, or one that hasn't been maybe said as much. Michael says Tom Cleverley may have to cop a fair amount of responsibility for what's happened this season, loaning out Rivich and getting Jebison in, Sissoko back on high wages and as captain, which is a fair comment in terms of those individual incidences. I mean, Jebison was his signing. He said it as much. Sissoko, he said, was his signing. He's made him captain. Do you reckon Cleverley looks back on those decisions, Charlie, and go, oh, and regret it in hindsight?
Potentially, but that was his first window as a head coach. Like, he literally has been a head coach for like 3 months before that. So what are you expecting? And I think on paper, a lot of Watford fans at the start of the window wouldn't have had that opinion when you look at it. So massive learning for him. I think everyone was excited about Jefferson. The profile was exactly what we wanted. I disagree about the Rajovic. Like, anyone who's got eyes can see he is not the answer. I'd rather Dumbia play instead of Bayo, to be honest. We're going to see now, hopefully. Well, it's more than likely Dumbia is going to be leading the line for us. I hope instead of playing as Koembi as a false nine. Sissoko, yeah, I think in hindsight, he may have... that might not be the leadership the profile that he would have thought he would have got of a player of his age and experience. But yeah, but we all knew Cleves is a new coach and he's going to make a mistake. But you can't say that because those decisions about Jefferson and Sissoko is the reason that our squad is in the state it is in now. Do you think Cleves should take any of the blame?
Look, I'd be if I'm being as balanced as possible. I think there's been decisions Cleverley's made this season that I haven't agreed with in terms of, for example, bringing Batman in when Bond was playing well. The Sissoko signing, I think I said at the time, he's nothing more than a squad player. And I think if that had been, I think that if he'd been using that way, I don't think Sissoko would be a bad signing, but he's been used far too much at his age than he should have been. Now, whether that's Cleverley thinking he's better than the options we have, but I look at the midfield now and he shouldn't be starting Sissoko. Really, if everyone's fit, he should not be one of the first names on the team sheet, but he's probably made a bit too much. The Jefferson experiment didn't work. Now, whether that was his first option, we don't know. A lot of the stuff we don't know. But I think the Sissoko move, it's more for me how he's applied the signings, Charlie, rather than actually the signings itself. Because clearly there's been a couple that have been his signings. Jefferson's one, Sissoko's the other. But clearly this window has highlighted they have not been his signings. I mean, categorically, the signings that we've been linked with in those championship experience players, Charlie, for example, Charlie Taylor, he was one that clearly was someone that Cleves had lined up. Matt Target, another one we were linked with, not our fault in that respect. Well, if we got him in earlier, but Newcastle pulled out the deal because I think Lloyd Kelly's off. So Clevy's made the point that in this window, 50% of what happens in the start and 50% of what happens at the end of the window. It's always a reactive window, January, I think, than a proactive one. But I do think that Watford, we just have a habit of this. We leave it right to the end. And maybe, Charlie, there's a pattern to the fact that you can pick up some cheap deals or a decent deal towards the end because clubs have to sell, or a player has forced us through a move, or something pops up late, rather than Watford committing early, getting their business done early, and then situations come up that they're interested in. But to bring it back around to what you said about Cleverley, my issue wasn't really with the signings. My issue was how he applied the signings, and Sissoko's played far too much. Rajovic, I agree, wouldn't have been the answer, or despite his goal records. I think that's an easy sort of put a player in that position, they would have scored the same amount of goals. That's just not, I don't think that's the case. And Jefferson just didn't work out for whatever reason. But I struggle to believe that Jefferson was his first choice, if I'm honest. If I looked at the options, I remember at the time, Al Hamadi was linked, a couple of other players, and I just don't believe that Jefferson was his first choice. But anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on that one. There was a couple of comments from Laura. Incompetence is the word for it. Tim White says the two players Clev said were guaranteed with Target and Goddo, and now probably neither are coming in. There was another one. Charlie, if Watford lose the next few games in their crucial derby, is it game over for Clevs?
Not if I was making the decision, but Gino might make the decision. But bring in a random for the end of the season with this squad, what you're going to achieve. We've said it before. It's a tough run of game, and that's what's killed us really. The injuries and the form since Boxing Day. That's what's killed us. That's why I think Norwich was such a big game to get a result. But who have we got to thank for that? In my opinion, Bakumbayu. And whose signing was he? It all stems back to Mr. Gino Pozzo in my eyes. So, yeah, for me, Cleves is untouchable. Whether the hierarchy agree, no, not the hierarchy. Whether Gino agrees with that is a different situation.
I hate to be a real downer, Charlie, but I'm now looking over my shoulder more than I'm looking forwards. And what I mean by that is I don't think Watford will go down. by any stretch, right? But I think we're 9 points off. Oh no, we're 9 points off being safe this season. We're 3 wins away. Preston are 4 points behind us. And if you actually look at the championship table, right, where from a point where we were looking up and to a point where Cleverley had put us in a good position, he needed help. He hasn't got the help. And we're 14 points off, right, with 16 games to go, right? And people would go, no. But I actually think you look at the squad, Charlie, and it's probably a good time to get it on screen. We're lacking depth in key areas. I look at striker. I mean, that is just criminal, really, how we're now left in a position where we don't have a striker better than Bio at the football club. Dumby has been tasked as an 18-year-old in his first season in England to come up with the goods. With Vata injured at the minute, Bar injured as well. We're lacking stuff. Well, we're relying on Chatford to create going forward. And as we saw at the weekend, if we do that, sometimes that's not gonna pay off. I think centre back we're fine. Wing back, okay, we'll get away with it. But I just look in those forward areas, Charlie. It's a major concern, and particularly midfield as well with Duomo out. Loser's really the linchpin of this team, and I'd go as far to say now that Pollock and Loser are our two most important players. I mean, you take them out of the team, and it's a completely different lineup. So yeah, I think actually the pairing will be a bank with Pollock and Loser for games to come. Not a problem. Would have liked another midfielder, but that striker position, it's amazing how that hasn't been rectified. And I guess that is why there's these last minute aims to get Brenner in to save the day.
Yeah, so this is the squad currently. Let's get rid of Goddo. It was fun while it lasted. And shall we strip it back to see who we've got available for our game against Sunderland? All these guys fit. Duomo's injured. Wiley's not available. Vata, he should recover by then, shouldn't he? Bar's not available. Bayo's not available. Anyone that I've missed that isn't available for Sunday? For Saturday, sorry.
Think so. Don't think so. I think that's the big thing, isn't it?
Am I right in saying it's 2 weeks' time because it's FA Cup, or is it Sunday this week?
What, Sunderland?
Yeah, it's this week, isn't it? We've both out the FA Cup.
Yeah, early kick-off as well, which is an interesting one because, I mean, early kick-off at Sunderland, going to have to travel up the night before. That's one thing to mention. But when we look at it on paper, Charlie, you see the players, and there's some really exciting footballers in there. Vata, Bar, Chatford, Loser's a good player. Pollock's been great this season. I like the look of a Banqua, right? But we're just missing that little bit. Well, I say a little bit. We are missing individual quality in key areas, and that's been a theme of recent seasons. But it's more now, Charlie, with the state of the squad and injuries, we are light, aren't we?
Yeah, massively. Look at the key. I'm just looking at our centre forward option. It's pretty disgrace that that's the situation. We'll see if Brenner comes in. But again, he hasn't played in ages. And the left back, I don't think we can say Morris hasn't played as a left back all season, has he? And Laruzzi's there by himself. It's a really poor squad. It's a really, really poor squad. And again, the fact that we're in the position that we are, we can't stress enough how good of a job that Clevs has done. So yeah, I feel like a bit of a broken record saying it time again, but this is just a visual to show what Clevs is working with, really. But as fans, I think we've all enjoyed this season. I think we've had some really good wins. I think we can never question the attitude of the team. And I think the kind of spirit and culture within the first team environment has been good. So as fans, let's support Clevs, let's support the team. I thought that was good as well against Norwich. And I think it was a point that he made where he said, I don't want all the chants just to be about me. And I thought the crowd made a real effort singing about particular players, Matty Pollock. And I think that's right. Let's get behind the players and Clevs and channel our frustrations to one man and one man only.
Let's have a look at some of the other stuff that's happened in the transfer window, Charlie. One that came out of nowhere, a man who is out and won't be involved at the weekend due to his injury, and that's Quadro Bar. Now, we all know the season he's had this season, which has been electric. Really, there's one word you'd say about Bar. And Wolfsburg made an inquiry of Watford over Quadro Bar after 5 goals and 3 assists in 29 appearances this season, according to Fabrizio Romano. Bar is considered by Watford as non-transferable. The proposal has been rejected, and I think rightfully so. In terms of what he's offered this season. Interestingly enough, Bar actually spent a bit of time out on loan in Germany before, and he has a German passport, so it would have been pretty easy to make happen. I think he actually represents Germany at youth international level as well, if I'm not mistaken, Quadro Bar. So that might be one just to keep an eye on in the future. He was on loan at Fortuna Dusseldorf in 22-23. Look, it had to happen, right, Charlie? We couldn't afford to sell Bar. I think that again changed the dynamic of that front three, where we'd literally be relying on Chatford, Datsy, and Vata to drag us through games. And when they're not available, Vata's not available at the minute, we're left in a position where we'd be light there then as well.
Yeah, Kojo Bar actually was born in Germany. He did represent England at under 18s, but then represented Germany at under 19s. So there's a clear link there. And the fear is now that Quadro Bar, Rocco Vata, Georgie Chatford-Datsy, it could be one summer where Gino flips them, sells them on for a decent fee, and then he's all paid up with what his own. Would you take that going into next season if Gino strips all of our assets but is one step closer to leaving? And we looked at the squad there, how bare it was. What's the Mick McCarthy meme? Can't get any worse, can it?
It can't get worse, can it? It can.
You don't laugh, you cry.
Oh God! You can tell how many times I've done that in the mirror. It's not bad. Not a bad impression too far. Better than I thought it was. Look, yeah, I think I'm totally with you, lads, in terms of the state of the football club. Where I think the owner needs to change is it's obvious. It's obvious for everyone to see now. I think what I'm always cautious of is just who would be coming in, who is going to be the buyer, because I'm totally with the people to say that the owner should leave. I'm on that page. I'm totally with that, but I want to know what's the next option, because I mean you can't live your life like that. It's like breaking up with a girl and then going, oh, will I get another girlfriend? You know, it's you can't live your life like that. If it feels right in the moment, we're all thinking the same thing, but ultimately, I don't want us to be left in a even worse state with owners that don't have a clue what they're doing. So I'm not saying the owners at the minute, the thing is, right, if you're being completely balanced on it, these owners are good at certain things now. They used to be better at a lot more things. What they're good at now is buying a player young and flipping them. That is what they are good at. There's no denying it. It will happen to Vata. It will happen to Bar. It'll happen to Chatford-Datsy. That is what they're good at. But there's a lot of things that used to be ahead of the curve with that are not ahead of the curve with anymore. And I think we're just going towards being sold. And ultimately, I just want to know the options, really, Charlie, because it just feels like it's only going one way, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, you always said the owners, like there's multiple. There's only one man. And that's Gino. He's the one making all the decisions.
Well, the board, sorry.
He's the one who signs off on all the players. He's the one who would have said no to probably plenty of players in this window because he didn't want to pay the wages. So I just want to, because I hate that when people are like, oh, Watford sacked a manager. No. Gino Pozzo. He is the one that should get the spotlight. So, yeah, Jacob, I think let's cross that bridge when it comes to it. But I think it might have to get worse before it gets better for Watford. And I think we should stomach that, really. Might have to take short-term gain for a long-term gain. Short-term pain for long-term gain.
I think that's Andrew's son, Aidan. I'm pretty sure. Unless it's just a weird coincidence. If not, Aidan, I apologise.
Come on, Aidan, give us an exclusive.
Come on, no more signings for the rest of the night, according to Aidan. Huge shout out to Andrew French. His coverage this transfer window has been absolutely superb and covered it from the perspective of a Watford fan, and which he obviously is, a die-hard Watford fan, trying to do the best to cover it for us as supporters. So, yeah, it looks like we'll be left with Vacuum Bio and Dumbia as our two attacking options. To be honest, Charlie, it would not surprise me, and I'm hoping Vata is fit as soon as possible, that he is going to be our number 9. Because I like the look of Dumbia, but I think it's expecting a lot. It's expecting a lot of Vata, but I've just seen more of Vata this season to hang my hat on him a bit more than Dumbia. But I really hope, I'm sure he'll be involved on Saturday against Sunderland. Right, there's a few more bits to get into. Sorry, it's a bit of a long one. If you want us to keep going, we can, but I'm sure some of you are Yeah, it's probably setting alarms for tomorrow. It is work. I'm in the office tomorrow as well. Anyway, look, let's touch on a few players that are linked to Watford, but aren't joining Watford. That was probably the section. Ishmael Kone to Rennes, Charlie.
I know these are just former players that it's just worth crying about. But yeah, Ishmael Kone has gone to Rennes. Emmanuel Dennis going to Blackburn, which is an interesting one. How do you feel about that?
Would you have gambled, Charlie? Would you have brought him in?
Like I think I said on the last one we spoke about, if it was Dennis or nothing, I'd go with Dennis. So it looks like, I mean, we could have done with Dennis now. So,
do you know what it is, Charlie? In an ideal scenario, I wouldn't. But with the options that we're left with, I absolutely probably would have gambled. But that's almost my toxic relationship with this ownership, honestly, because I'll moan about them not bringing certain players in, which I stand by. But if you said last roll of the dice at Dennis because he's probably better than the options we've got, this is the point I've got to with these owners.
The options we've got is nothing. That is the case. Exactly. Actually, interesting comment from someone about Connor Wickham. Connor Wickham could be available. Connor Wickham has actually been training with our under 21s. So hey, I just went. I don't know how available it should be known, but like it was a while ago. I'll get myself in trouble. Yeah, no, he has trained.
It's only 2016-17.
Exactly. But get him up. When I heard that Wrexham signed Jay Rodriguez, I was like, he's better than Bayo. Like Wrexham have a better strike line than us. I'm sure half the 92 do.
Well, Forestieri was training with the under-23s for a bit, wasn't he?
And get him in as well.
Connor Wickham. Oh, this is a good question. Let's have some fun questions as well on this transfer deadline day. Alex says, would you take Andre Gray on a free? HJ Forestieri was training with the squad, wasn't he? This is a great question. Would you have Jebison with what you know now?
Yeah, I said that before. Like, I would have persisted with him if it was either him or nothing. Like, obviously, it's been bad, but all it took was one goal, and he might have done well. But yeah, I would have stuck with him if it was nothing.
Okay. We mentioned Ishmael Kone to Rennes, Emmanuel Dennis to Blackburn, Cucho to Real Betis. I have to say, fair play to Cucho Hernandez. When he left to Columbus Crew in the MLS, it's Columbus Crew? I think it was.
Yeah.
Columbus Crew. I remember thinking, that's a weird move, but fair play to him. That's a move that's paid off. He became one of the best players in the MLS. He's been picked up by Real Betis, 16 million euros. I don't know if Watford have a sell on, but that's a great move for him. For Watford, though, this is where we're left with Charlie, assuming no more signings come in. Deadline, well, Watford's transfer window. Do you know what? I'm going to get that graphic up again from the Watford Buzz podcast so people can put their grades in and put their thoughts in it as well. Just to wrap up this one, I know people want us to go on for longer, but to be honest, I think if we did another hour, nothing else is going to change. So we'll leave it there just for now. But look, the Watford Buzz podcast put this graphic together that we mentioned at the top. Sorry, while I get it up, Charlie, anything else you wanted to mention?
No. Rating our transfer window out of 10, I will give it a solid. I'll give it a solid 2 just for James Abankwah because I think he looks like a decent player. Is that 2 out of 10?
Yeah. Look, again, it's hard because it can't get worse. No, I mean, look, I think Abankwah is going to be a good signing. I'm pretty confident of that. Selvik will come in to be number 1 soon, I'd imagine. Wiley isn't ready, and I think on that note, I'm going to go with a 2.5.
You generous soul.
2. It's not great. It's not great. 2 or 3 for me. It's not a great window. I think the striker one is just blow my mind that hasn't been sorted. I'm not saying it's easy. I get that. I'm not saying it's like Football Manager where you just go online and pick a player and they come to your team. But I'm seeing other Championship teams picking up players like Sunderland picking up Jayden Dans, or Middlesbrough picking up some really good signings. And I'm not saying to spend loads of money. That's not the point. What I'm saying is, can we just be a bit smarter with our business? can we get a player on loan? But I mean, the fact of the matter is, you've always made the point, Charlie, that Premier League teams probably don't want to engage with us really because of our track record.
Yeah, but if that's the case, let's lean on our world famous scouting system to bring in some good players from abroad. But that hasn't even happened. So damning.
Damning indeed. Anything else you want to mention, Charlie, before we go?
No. There's still 55 minutes of the window. Could some craziness happen? Who knows?
What would be like if you could sign one player available now? I'm putting you on the spot here. I'm assuming it would be a striker.
Yeah,
do you have a name?
It'd be Brenner. I hope that some poor guy in the media team has been asked to get on Photoshop and get a Brenner graphic made up and some paperwork's been done. Not that I think he's ideal with the minute he's played, but just seems realistic. And like you said about our striking option, but yeah, that comment was spot on. Negligent, incompetent, poor. It's just it's just a shame. But Cleverley has been fantastic this season in getting the best out of the squad. So I've got faith that until now, the end of the season, while he's in post, we will do well enough. There's no way we're getting relegated. So that fear shouldn't be there. There's no chance of that happening. Yeah. I hope. But
yeah. Jack makes a great point. Before the window, we were potentially saying playoffs. Now we are concerned about relegation. Says it already. Look, I don't think Watford will go down. I mean, this will probably get clipped up or whatever. But I think the fact that I'm now looking at it going, can we get 9 points just to make sure we're safe and just chill out for the rest of the season? I almost want to check out this season now. And that's really sad. So, like, just to wrap up, I was really, really invested in this team. And I mentioned so many times on this channel about what Cleverley was doing and the way he's bringing the young players in. And we're up against the odds in terms of what the board are doing, but also Cleverley bringing that connection back. It's a joy. It was a joy to go to Vicarage Road again. I always love going to Vicarage Road, but particularly under Clevs. And we've gone from this high of expectation, maybe wrongfully, and maybe that's the part of being a football fan where you dream a little bit and you look above probably where you should be. Again, it does even itself out over the course of the season. But the fact that I'm now sitting here, or not me, that's making me sound a lot more important than it is, but the fact that I'm sitting here now thinking, can we just get 9 more points and then just chill out for the rest of the season? And I think that's a really sad place to be in as a Watford fan when you've gone from really invested in it to actually, God, it's going to be a long 16 games left of the season, Charlie.
Yeah, my last word is football, anything can happen. And you might feel deflated now because transfers haven't happened. We haven't got players in that we don't know are going to be good enough. But the boys might turn up and put an amazing performance in Sunderland, and then the reaction to that video on Sunday night will be a lot more positive. So football moves in fast, but as Cleverley says, never too high, never too low. Keep the chins up. Brighter days will be ahead.
There we go. Okay, and just to wrap up, sorry to end it on a on a negative note. Andrew French, sorry, it doesn't look like the one I was expecting, Godot, is going to happen now. Like all other Watford fans, I'm deflated, and I think that's where we'll leave it. Thanks so much to everyone who watched live this evening on deadline day. We hope it was cathartic. Hopefully you've shared or at least thought about maybe a debate or a conversation about Watford at this moment in time. It's difficult sometimes to sum it up, but hopefully we managed to do it as well as possible. Thanks so much to Charlie for joining me on this Monday night. I think your girlfriend's probably saying, where are you? Why are you spending too much time with Jacob? I don't have that same problem, but hey, look, we move on. I'll probably stick on Netflix to get me through the next hour of deadline day instead of me scrolling on social media. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy the conversation anyway. Subscribe to WD18, comment down below your thoughts. If you are listening to this on audio, drop us a review. Really appreciate you joining us today, and we will see you in the next one. And as always, this is brought to you in partnership with Hertfordshire Mind. Take care. I'll be on it.